All right, let's jump straight in. Think about the word wealth. What's the very first picture that flashes in your mind? For me, it's my Instagram feed, right? It's the Lambos, the private jets, the ridiculous vacation photos. It's all just so loud.
And you just hit on the great deception. So what's so fascinating digging through the material for this is that real, lasting wealth is, well, it's pretty much the exact opposite of that. It's quiet. Almost all of the time, you'd never even see it.
So what you're saying is we're all sold this fantasy of a jackpot moment. You win the lottery or you pick that one stock that just explodes and boom, your life changes overnight.
Exactly. But the truth uncovered in the research is just so much less dramatic. It's the slow, patient, and, let's be honest, kind of boring process of compounding. And this huge gap between what we think wealth looks like and what it actually is, that's what we're going to explore today.
Wow. Okay, hold on. That quote, that really lands. So you can be on the perfect path, making every single right move, and not even feel like you're winning? That seems like a complete paradox. It is, and that's the central mystery we're trying to solve here. Why does the real journey to financial freedom feel so different from the way it's portrayed? Let's break down the hidden signals that show you're actually on the right track.
Okay, so we have to begin with the absolute bedrock of all of this. This has nothing to do with some secret stock tip or a complicated trading algorithm. This is about the single most important and yet most overlooked part of the entire wealth equation.
So, the very first sign is mastering this idea. But let's be super clear here. This is not about making yourself miserable or depriving yourself of joy. It's about being intentional. It's about consciously deciding to create a space, a gap, between what comes in and what goes out by asking yourself a really simple question. What is truly enough for me?
And this slide just makes it so painfully obvious. You've got Rich Richard and Poor Peter. They make the exact same amount of money, but look at their financial futures. They're heading to completely different planets.
It's so true. Richard is creating a $20,000 surplus year after year. And that isn't just money, that's options, that's freedom. That's the fuel for everything else we're about to talk about. Peter, meanwhile, might look the part, but he's actually digging a deeper hole for himself every single year. That gap, it really is everything.
Okay, so creating the gap is the what. But sticking with it, man, that feels like it requires a totally different kind of mindset. Like you have to rewire your brain.
You absolutely do. And that's the second piece of the foundation. Once you get the mechanics of the gap working, you need the psychology to back it up. It's all about shifting your time horizon and learning to play the long game.
Our whole society is mired for the quick hit, right? The next paycheck, the next quarterly report. The data shows a massive psychological shift happens when you stop chasing those fast wins and you start thinking about your progress in decades. You have to learn to love the slow, boring process of consistency, not the quick thrill of a one-time score.
And just look at this. This is the payoff for that long game mindset. After 20 years, Peter, who was probably chasing hot tips, has 60 grand. But Richard, whose boring plan was just to invest that gap year and year out, he has over 5 times more. That's just staggering.
It is. And you want to know the craziest part? He probably barely even noticed it happening. His wealth just built itself quietly, in the background, while he was busy living his life.
All right, so once that foundation is in place, you've got the gap, you've got the long-term mindset, the next phase is all about defense. You have to build a kind of financial moat around yourself to protect everything you're building from the chaos that life will inevitably throw your way. I really love the way this is put. This isn't your flex money for a big screen TV. This is your sleep-at-night money. It's the ultimate breathing room fund, isn't it? That's the perfect way to put it. It doesn't buy things, it buys peace of mind. When your car's transmission blows or your company suddenly announces layoffs, you don't panic. You have time, you have options. And frankly, those are 2 of the greatest luxuries money can buy. Now, this is the part that genuinely blew me away when I was digging into the data. Let's put this buffer into context. If you have just 3 to 6 months of your living expenses saved in cash, you are already in the top 25% of Americans.
No way! Are you serious? Just having that basic safety net puts you ahead of 3/4 of the country? Wow. That's not just a small step on this path. That's a huge, monumental achievement.
Okay, time for the second wall of your financial moat. This one is less about protecting yourself from things out there and more about protecting your growing wealth from the most dangerous threat of all, which is yourself.
This idea is called lifestyle inflation immunity. It's such a critical sign that you're getting it right. See, as your income goes up, the default human response is to let your spending go right up with it. A raise comes in, a bigger car payment goes out. Gaining this immunity is about having the discipline to keep your baseline lifestyle pretty much the same, even as your paycheck gets bigger.
And here are our guys again. Richard gets a nice raise, but he barely changes a thing about how he lives. He basically captures that entire raise and turns it directly into investment fuel. And Peter's raise? Poof, it's gone, vaporized by a more expensive apartment. He feels richer because his stuff is a little nicer, but financially, he's just treading water in a fancier pool. The second your first thought after a raise is, how much more of this can I invest, instead of what new thing can I buy, that's a huge level up in your financial psychology.
Okay, I'm really starting to pick up on the theme here. The deeper we get into this, the less it's about spreadsheets and numbers, and the more it's about what's going on inside your own head. This next phase, it feels like it's all about finding a kind of psychological freedom.
This one is an absolute game changer. It's when you genuinely stop looking at your neighbor's new boat or your friend's fancy vacation and feeling that pang of envy. And the reason you stop is because you're now in on a little secret. Most of that flashy, visible wealth you see is actually financed by debt, and it's actively destroying their financial future.
That immunity has to feel like a superpower. It's not just that you're off the hamster wheel. You're not even in the same room as the wheel anymore. You're immune to the marketing, immune to peer pressure, immune to that constant fear of missing out. It frees you up completely to build wealth on your own terms, for your own reasons. It is no exaggeration, a financial superpower.
And that freedom from comparison leads you right to the next sign. It's a huge shift in your day-to-day mental energy. It's what happens when money just stops being a source of that constant low-level anxiety that so many people live with.
Think about it. When you're struggling financially, money is the loud, demanding main character in the movie of your life. It's in every single scene. But as you build these quiet systems, you automate your savings, your investments, your bill payments, money's role just shrinks. It recedes into the background and becomes a boring, reliable supporting actor.
Which must free up an incredible amount of mental and emotional bandwidth to focus on the things that actually matter, you know? Your health, your relationships, your passions.
Which I think brings us to what might be the entire point of this journey. It's not really about just stacking up dollars in a bank account. The real goal, the ultimate prize, is something so much more valuable and, more importantly, finite.
And this question perfectly captures the final flip in perspective. See, in the beginning, you have to trade your time for money. It's the only way. But the ultimate sign of true wealth is when you can reverse that equation. You start using your money to buy back your time. Paying for convenience, saying no to things that drain you, prioritizing empty space on your calendar, that becomes the new definition of luxury.
Okay, this brings us to the last and I honestly think the most powerful sign of them all. This is where every single principle we've talked about, the gap, the long game, the mindset, it all comes together in one single empowering idea. It's the ultimate indicator that you are truly in control of your own life. The ownership mindset. I love this simple shift in language here. I can't afford it is a victim's phrase, right? It says the world is doing things to you. But saying, that's not a priority for me, that's a statement of pure power. It's your decision.
That's it, exactly. You stop blaming the economy or your boss or your bad luck, and you focus with this laser-like intensity only on the things you can actually control. The moment you take that kind of radical ownership over your reality, your words, and your choices, that is the moment you become truly wealthy.
So this is where we land. And after everything we've just walked through, it feels like the answer has to be a clear, confident yes.
It is. If your journey to building wealth feels quiet, if it feels uneventful, and yeah, maybe even a little bit boring, that's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It is the surest sign that you are secretly building something real and something that will last. You are absolutely 100% doing it right.